Hello, everybody, and welcome to the newest episode of Retro Nerds Rewind. How's everybody doing today?
Spectacular.
Groovy.
Filled with much anticipation.
Ooh, I know what you probably saw earlier today. All right, I am Aaron, your host. With me, as always, are my friends Cody.
That's me.
Jamal.
Yo, what's up?
And Sean.
Snick.
All right, so Sean, what is on the docket for today, my friend?
Sure thing. So today we're watching a personal favorite of mine, X-Men, the animated series, Season 1, Episode 5, Captive Hearts. Now this aired January 30th, 1993.
Awesome. I remember watching this series growing up. It was a lot of fun, something I always loved, especially that intro song. Jamal, I'm sure you probably watched this one growing up. Tell me, what's a quick memory you have from that?
Yes, sir. So I will always remember seeing Jubilee for the first time in the mall and like her chewing bubble gum and then fireworks sparking out of her hands. So I always thought that was pretty cool. And then of course Storm, Cyclops, Beast.
Yep, definitely. Sean, what about you? Quick memory from the show, so I'm pretty sure you watched it growing up.
Oh, you better believe I watched it. And the most significant memory I have of this show is never knowing what happened the previous episode. Because kids, in the 90s, there was no DVR, there was no recording. Like, if you missed an episode of X-Men, you were out of luck. You had to live solely by those recaps.
And it was worse later in the series when they started airing them out of order because the animation wasn't done.
Yeah.
Or all the reruns. Like, you just get random reruns of episodes, and you're like, previously on X-Men. Okay.
What about you, Cody? I know you weren't alive yet when the series first launched, but as you got older, did you catch the reruns? Did you watch it on someone's VHS or DVD collection? How did you catch this first, and what did you think of it?
It's funny you asked that too, because I read the comics first. Thank you to my mom. And then went to my cousin's house and continued to watch the actual show itself, which I'm very familiar with the catastrophe of the launch of this show and the catastrophe that ensued after season, I believe it's like 4 or 5 is when they started showing them out of order and stuff. So yeah.
It started after Dark Phoenix for the
Yes.
West. So yes. All right. Well, you know what? Let's take a quick break from a word from one of our favorite sponsors, Drawn to Comics. Hey there, everybody. We'll get back to the podcast here in just a minute. I want to talk about these awesome deals that are coming from Drawn to Comics over their 13 Days of Comics sales they're going to have going on starting December 8th through the 22nd. That's right, 13 days of flash sales. Find out what's going on each and every day through their social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. They're going to post it up all over there. And you will be able to find out exactly what's going on sale each and every day. Now, if you don't live in Arizona and can't make it down to the shop, we still got you covered. Simply go to their website, drawntocomics.com, click on their eBay page, so that way you can get a free gift with each and every purchase. No code needed. We've got them doing it for every single person on eBay right now. So you go out there, you can find them through drawntocomics.com, click on their eBay page, and get those free deals from them. That's right, that free gift sent right to your home. Or if you are in Arizona, swing by after checking out their social media. 13 Days of Comics. Merry Christmas. And we are back. All right. Now, Jamal, I know you've got an awesome synopsis of this for us, so why don't you let us hit rewind and take us back.
Certainly. We open, of course, on the X-Men practicing in the Danger Room as Cyclops and Professor X supervise. However, it quickly turns to the worst as Storm fails to control her powers when faced with claustrophobia. Later, Jean Grey and Cyclops are out on the town when they witness a mutant being chased down by a group of humans. They follow the mob into the subway to find that the humans are the ones that need help from a group of mutants. Cyclops and Jean Grey are knocked out and taken captive, only to be awakened. Cyclops is brought to the leader of this group of mutants, Calypso, and introduced to the rest of the Morlocks. Callisto reveals that the entire thing was a ruse to get Cyclops down there and make him the king. Jean telepathically calls Professor X for help, and the professor sends the rest of the X-Men to go save them, led by Storm. The X-Men fight their way through the ambush after ambush from the Morlocks. They find and save Jean, only to find Cyclops dead. This turns out to be a ruse also, because it's not a real Cyclops. It's not the real Cyclops, excuse me. They leave and fight breaks out between the two groups. Wolverine tracks down Cyclops and brings him back to the fray, just in time for the Morlocks to use their scrutinies against them to win the battle. Storm challenges Callisto to a one-on-one, powerless battle and wins, taking over leadership of the Morlocks. They overpower the Morlocks to come and stay, they offer the Morlocks to come and stay with them at the mansion, but they refuse until they can be accepted by society. We close as the X-Men return home to recover, only to find that Wolverine, sick of being the third wheel, has taken off, and then it ends to be continued.
Very nice, very nice. Now, Sean, I know I remember you saying earlier that you had some fun facts about this series. Why don't you enlighten us?
I do indeed. So, one thing I found very interesting was any cameos that you see throughout the series was actually put in against studios' wishes. So they used vague names in the script, such as a magician for Doctor Strange or mutant number 4 for like Thunderbird, and Deadpool is just like a random character. So I thought that was like them sticking it to the studio. I always love hearing stories about that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if any Star Trek fans are out there, and I'm guessing there is,
one right here.
You don't say.
If you're getting a little bit feelings of deja vu while watching X-Men, that's probably for good reason, because apparently they reused sounds from Star Trek. Like Magneto's use of his powers is actually the same sound as the cloaking device on the Klingon ship being powered up, yes, or enabled. And then lastly, I was blown away when I saw this. I love this. In Japan, when the show aired in the 90s, the icon intro was replaced with their own version with a more rock style called Rising by Ambiance. Like, so your iconic intro theme song that we all know and love, completely different. Like, that's just mind blowing.
And I find it funny that they wanted it to be, they said it was more rock, because when you listen to it, I mean, it's pretty, outside of the initial, string instruments, it's pretty guitar. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Doo-doo.
Yeah, you get DMCA'd for just the theme song.
Trust me, not with how I do it. It'll never happen.
4 second rule.
4, not 5, because we didn't drop anything. Oh,
yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you for those fun facts there, Sean. We're gonna hit up another one of our sponsors real quick, Championship Martial Arts. Here's a quick word from them. Hey there, everybody. Want to give a quick shout out to one of our sponsors, Championship Martial Arts. Now, if you remember correctly, that's the school my family goes to, and they've got a great deal for the holidays for everybody. So right now, you can train the entire rest of the year for only $99. Includes a private lesson, your uniform, and a $75 Visa gift card for you for the holidays. That's right. So basically, you get paid, you get a gi, and you get trained for the entire rest of the year for only $99. So check them out on their website, championshipmartialartsaz.com, right here in Peoria, Arizona. And now let's get back to the podcast. All right, we are back. Let's dive into this, gentlemen. I know we've all got our notes pulled up here, so let's kick it off. I mean, first thing that happens, previously on X-Men. You know, it's like, who doesn't love a good 90s recap? It tells so much story in such a short length of time. Thankfully, it's only a minute long. Unlike some of the other shows we've watched, like
Oh my god,
where the exposition for that intro was longer than this recap. So I know I just keep bringing it back.
As I mentioned before, the one thing that I remember the most about this show was that previously on in those recap intros. So watching this, like, I've seen every episode of X-Men, but watching the previously on, the first thought that jumped in my mind was, so I need to go back and watch the other episodes to know what happened? No. Like, they explain everything you need to know in that recap, which is good, but it's still, that feeling does not go away of I need to watch everything else.
There's the show reminded me of the older comics when you could go on that very first page and read a nice little synopsis of the last 2 issues. With this being only the 5th episode of the whole entire series, they didn't have a lot to recap, but they did a good job of kind of letting you know what you were seeing that you had missed before. So
what I also liked is the comics also did that thing that famous 90s sitcoms would do, is the last thing that the person said in the scene, they would say it, but it's slightly different than when you came back from commercial break.
Yes. Yeah. So from there we get to the intro. I don't know about you guys. I do not skip intro for the show.
No.
Doesn't matter how many episodes in a row I'm watching, I'm enjoying and listening to that theme song.
I did the same thing with the new one too.
Yeah.
Well, I know we're not talking about the new one, but since you brought it up, the new one being phenomenal. One thing I loved about it brings back that nostalgia of almost the same intro, almost.
Yeah.
It's
And
a
they
modern.
actually get to highlight other characters, which I really love to see. But we're not talking about that episode today. We're talking about the one from 1993. Please continue.
Yeah. Well, I will say I did like how they redid the intro a little bit, give it that nice little change, kind of modernize it a little bit for the X-Men 97 show. I enjoyed it. I did hit skip on it a few times, but
Shame.
you know, just because it didn't hit the same for me. I mean, it was still good, but was it?
I will
Cool.
say
I mean,
though, the intros gave cameos to characters that could potentially be in the episode that you were going to watch, and it's different each time for every episode of 97 as well.
Okay.
So just in case you want to go back and rewatch just the intros so you could see how different they are.
Yeah,
Because I noticed it and I was like,
that's what I want my Disney Plus queue to keep saying. Can you finish this episode? Can you finish this episode? Because you only got a minute in.
So after our intro, we get into where they're in the danger room.
Yes.
And so the first thing you see are these giant, like, metal tentacles flying around, attacking them. And my thinking is, for the episode, are we going to get a crossover with Doc Ock? Is that what they're prepping for? Because what are they, like, and then they reveal that they're prepping for whatever the humans might throw at them. Like, they're dodging lasers and razor blades and tentacles. And I suppose some of that stuff might come from, like, a Sentinel, but
Right.
from humans. I guess it's the whole...
Extreme, I guess.
Yeah,
I
remember the
guess.
Sentinels had the tentacles that came out of their palm to grab them.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
So there was no Spider-Man cartoon yet. Spider-Man came out in 94. So
Okay.
we don't have...
They were prepping. They were getting
They were
ready.
prepping.
Sure. Just making sure they could animate it right.
So I also mentioned during that part where they're fighting the tentacles, Jean says, "You messed with the wrong X-Men." Jean, what X-Men is the right one to mess with?
All of them.
This is why she's the only one that gets completely obliterated every battle scene, because she says stupid quips like that.
That and her, got to use her powers sound that goes into a fun
Mhm.
montage online if you want to look that up.
Yes, of her screaming every time. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So obviously, as we said before, they're all going around. Each one's using their powers, showing off. So anyone who hadn't watched X-Men kind of learns a little bit more about them. And then Storm powers start to go out of control because she's getting into that tight space on there. And my little thought with that was, it really makes you wonder what she could do if she really wanted to with her powers, because she was creating tornadoes, blowing everyone away, and it was just so devastating. And at that point, especially when I was a little kid, I had no clue what her powers could really do, because the comics that I read hadn't gone that far into her. So I mean, they did that later in the 90s when her popularity really soared from this series. So yeah,
They, in other canonical X-Men things, cartoons and comics, they start labeling her as like a level 5, I think, which is like one of the most powerful levels.
She's Omega level.
Yeah, she becomes Omega level eventually in the comics. I don't know if they ever did it in the show, but
it's right before
97. They really showed her being as an Omega level in 97.
My question, though, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but it stuck out like a sore thumb for me. In that when Storm is getting that claustrophobic pressure and she starts freaking out, you see a flashback of a child.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this child has very pale skin and red hair. Is it supposed to be Jean Grey, or was this is it supposed to be Storm?
I think that was a coloring animation problem, because essentially she's supposed to be flashing back to when she was a child and her home was being raided.
See, that's what I always thought. Like, it's, seeing this episode again, I knew that scene was going to come up. Mm-hmm. And then I saw it and I was like, wait a minute. Like, that doesn't look right.
I get that.
That's the unfortunate part of, especially with the animation studio. In the first season specifically, they had so many animation mistakes and they just refused to fix them.
Okay.
That, and it costs money. Gotta send it back. It costs money to get stuff done.
Yeah.
So a little after that, we get a cutscene over to where Wolverine is practicing. He's got bandages all over his... And we get this really super cringy scene with him and Jean Grey. I'm just going to say it. First of all, we've seen his healing factor before, many, many times. And he's still bruised? Sure you are.
Ego is bruised. You can't heal a fast ego, Sean. It's the one thing that he just can't quickly heal.
I was thinking he was just milking it for sympathy, because following that, and I'll just say it, he was creepy. Like, no wonder Jean keeps going back to Scott. Like, he was coming on really strong to someone that really wasn't into it.
It's okay. Later on, if you look really closely, it's really not Jean that he's into. It's really secretly him fighting the fact that he's really into Scott instead.
Sure.
That's right.
Why he covers her in the picture and you just see Scott. Because he only wants to see him, and then he's going to go save his boyfriend later on. It's true. Signs point toward it this whole episode.
Till the end, where he, cuts Scott out of the picture entirely to shreds.
He cuts them
picture
both.
in half, yeah. So there is merit to this theory.
I got
I'll
some
give you
lasers
that.
for you.
It's not like he cut the eyes out of Scott already. They're both separated.
So shortly after that, we see Jean and Scott both on a date to go see a movie. And
No, it's not a movie.
What was
It's
it?
the Phantom of the Opera.
Oh.
And it's still a traveling show. Andrew Lloyd Webber, please just get rid of it at this point.
So we see Little Leech use his powers of telekinetics, which which we see later is not his power. But all right. He's standing a foot away from this little fruit basket cart, and he's lifting some apples. Dude, if you're going to steal the apples, just go and grab the apples. It's not like there's someone standing there watching.
Well, it's not just apples either. They're either limes or lemons, or it goes back to oranges and then limes again at some point. It's a color changing fruit of some sort.
That I did not notice, but that tracks with the coloring option. Yeah. It's a lot more is clicking as we're
Plus,
talking.
he wanted to be seen,
Yeah.
which we didn't know at this point. Remember?
That's true. So he gets seen. They get chased down into the subway where the Morlocks start fighting the humans, and Jean and Grey come to bail them out. And we get a look at some of the Morlocks, and one of them, I'm sure he's got a name. I'm going to call him Timu Cyclops. He's got just an eye patch.
Back then, it would have been Big Lots.
Big Lots. There you go.
Big Lots.
Kmart.
Okay.
Kmart
He lifts
Cyclops.
up his eye patch and a laser comes out, just like Cyclops, right? He's got to block it because maybe he's got no control. But then I started thinking about it.
Oh, boy.
Wouldn't Cyclops fit him a little bit better than Scott? Like, he's the one that has one eye that's useful. One eye that he can see out of. Like, Scott's got both. Maybe we'll call him Biclops.
It's what could have been for Wolverine
Yeah.
and Biclops.
Biclops.
So after the battle's going a little bit, the old lady comes out and just starts chanting, "Sleep, I need sleep, sleep." And I'm like, man, wish I could fall asleep that fast.
Yeah, that granny kind of is weird.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want her around my kids. That's all I'm going to say.
She's an underground mutant, Morlock, so...
Come here, sugar. Go to sleep. I make it better. No. I don't want your candy. Get away.
A lot of creepy in this episode.
Yes, from all sides of mutants, unfortunately.
And I'm super excited about this because I didn't know this was the episode, but right after this scene, you guessed it, folks, we got a meme alert.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We got the meme of Wolverine laying in bed, stroking the picture.
First of all, why does he have that picture? Like, why would... Never mind.
Hey,
he's
I
got it framed.
have a Retro Nerds picture framed, and I do that every night.
Of Aaron and Sean and and your face?
That's right.
Okay,
Obviously, yeah.
fair enough.
TMI there, dude. TMI.
Bazinga.
So then
That's why I also said, again, he's covering Jean while he's doing it, so you only see
Petting
Scott.
her.
Hence,
he's petting her because he loves her. Because that's
He's
what
like,
you do
he's-
when you're in love, but you can't get anything back. You just pet the other person's picture. You know, It's
he's
the
not
90s.
petting.
You didn't
He's
have-
covering.
you didn't have
So he
Just
can
don't do
imagine
that in
himself.
public. Just don't do that in public.
Yeah.
He's covering her to imagine himself next to Scott instead.
Sure.
What I'm imagining.
You can push that
This
narrative all
episode
you
is
want.
definitely
dude. It's
going
not-
in a
not happening.
certain direction, isn't it?
That's true.
So from there, we go back to the Morlocks, and Scott is now waking up without his visor. And this is the first time that we see him without his visor. His eyes are either a brown or a hazel, depending as to what animation sequence is going on. And my thought with that was, let's see if they stay that color the whole episode.
Yeah.
Because you never
Just like
know.
the lemon and lime and the white storm kid.
So as Cyclops is bound to this table, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I definitely it jumped out. Another thing just jumped out at me, and it was he's bound to this table with like metal rings locking him into the table, and then you get the big mutant strong guy. I think it's actually his name, Strong Guy. Or maybe that's another mutant. I don't know. Anyway, this
could
big
be.
guy could be. Get in the comments. Let me know if I'm wrong. Big guy comes in, and he grabs Scott off the table like nothing and throws him over his shoulder. Okay, fine. But Scott was bound by metal to the table, and he just passed through it. Like,
He does it like any action figure. He rips it from that's supposed to be the twisties that keeps the action figure in, but he just tore it off. So what we don't see is that the things are still actually attached to Scott as he flings them over his shoulder.
I looked. They are not there.
No.
They fell off at some point.
Yeah, they fell off.
My thought was the guy grabbed him, like bashed him up into the ceiling, probably there, or the side of the wall, and got him free from it that way. And I'm like, what a waste of a table. You know, it's like,
yeah.
You're gonna have something to strap and hold someone down. Don't just destroy it. You're Morlocks. How easy is it to get another one?
It's true.
So after this scene, like he grabs Cyclops and he brings him to Calypso. And I didn't know if this is canon, but someone tell me if this is right or not. Cyclops says that sunlight fuels his power. Is that right?
That's why he has the visor. So with the visor, but it keeps it keeps some of the solar power and it stores some of his energy. That's why if he has any type of underground mission or anything, he's able to use his power still.
In the show, they say he has to have a special ruby lens to block the beam from coming out. Which is why he has the sunglasses, the special ruby glasses that are made of the same material as his visor. So it's it never says in the show that it's supposed to store up energy or anything like that. That may be a comics thing later on, but in the show that was not. So I don't know. I don't remember them after that mentioning sunlight fuels his power. But then again, we're only in episode 5. And lots of things can change in that time frame. But
I know
anyone in the comments that knows the comics that led up to the X-Men 93 series, please feel free to let us know whether that was canon prior to the series coming out, not after the series came out, prior to it.
Because I could have sworn too. Yeah, I could have sworn as well, but it's been a while.
They could have made it canon from the show. That's why I'm curious if it was in the comics before that.
Then we get to another creepy part.
Yeah, you get a nice little comment about taking out an ad to get Cyclops, and and my kids were like, what do you mean take out an ad? And I'm like, well, kids, back in the day, newspapers had dating ads. That was before you could do anything else. If you weren't able to go to a bar or go to a restaurant to meet people, you had to put an ad in the paper and pray someone called you or responded in the paper. Yes, yeah.
My name's Calypso.
It's kind of like Tinder without the swiping.
Mm-hmm.
Long walks on the beach.
I got an iPad.
If I could leave this train station.
I look kind of butch and I live in a sewer. I'm looking for a man with broad shoulders.
I think we all had kind of the same reaction at this point because I've got a note here that says, all right, so Calypso doesn't want Cyclops for his fighting abilities, but for his quote-unquote leadership. Okay.
Beamership.
The lady just is tired of all the uggos that she's around and wants a pretty face.
Exactly. Which is weird
Calypso's
because
picky.
the footage that she shows of him does not show his face. It shows
Yeah.
him basically in his blue condom with his jaw showing. So
That's the part that she saw was the condom.
yes, she knew he'd be.
I got
prepared.
it now.
So it doesn't help with an error though. So
It's not 100% preventative, as they say.
yeah. So next we see he's arguing with her and wanting to see Jean. She goes, "Fine, here I'll show you it." And she's all tied up in these chains up at the ceiling, being dropped down. And then as she basically has her foot touching the ground, then she turns her powers on to break the chains. And I'm like, you've been awake for how long? Why didn't you just do it a little sooner? I mean, even like just a few seconds beforehand when they started dropping, you could have been like busted out, knocked those chains around, knocked some people out, and just like turn off people's lights with your powers and say, "Cool, let's go, babe." She's so OP. It's like, come on, actually let her use them for once.
I was gonna say another Omega level mutant.
Yeah.
Even before the Phoenix, she's supposed to be this all-knowing power. Yet this cartoon, boy, that that montage that you were talking about earlier, Aaron, is just still keeps coming up.
So right after that, we've got the X. She like calls out to the X-Men. The X-Men come in, and this very subtle but very funny line that made me laugh. I don't think it was supposed to make me laugh, but it did. Wolverine is walking through, and they're all chatting, and he's like, "Stop talking! I smell something." It's like it's the same thing as turning the radio down when you're trying to look better, like to find an address or something. You have to turn the radio off.
Stop talking. I
know.
can't see the directions on
I
this
can't.
map. I need my glasses. Can you repeat that again?
Mhm.
Please speak up. I'm wearing a towel.
So after that, you see
Then we
Wolverine showing a little bit more jealousy as he's going through there, which again just kind of amps a little bit of the creep factor up on this episode. It's just like, okay, dude, come on, let's move on, let's go.
There was a in that same area. There's a pretty great piece of character development for everyone involved, which was Storm is starting to freak out by the claustrophobia, and Gambit's like, should we help her? And Wolverine's response was, "Let her ask."
Mm-hmm.
And again, very subtle, but I was like, okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
It speaks to all three of their characters very, very deeply.
Yeah.
And in that one little line tells you so much about what you need to know about their. I was like, okay, this is a good show.
I thought it was weird that that Gambit actually asked Wolverine to help him when Gambit was closer to Storm, because Storm was at the
Yeah.
very back and Gambit
Yeah,
was right.
he was
behind
like right
Wolverine.
next to her.
Yeah, you should help her. Like, what? You're right there, dude. If you think she needs help, help her, or ask her if she wants help. But no, let's ask the guy in front that's leading the way because he's got the nose that knows.
It's those smell goods. So that's how he's going to help her.
And then Rogue gets grabbed once
By the strong man.
big guy. And you would think she wouldn't go back, or excuse me, he wouldn't go back again, but he does like an idiot, so.
That's like
Yeah.
a great
Warlocks, they're
call-out.
not
He gets just
geniuses.
flipped.
She flips him, and then immediately, as she flips him, he turns around and comes back at her, and she just starts punching him because why? All bronze, no brains. To be fair, his name is Big Strong Man.
Hey, they weren't educated. They live in a sewer.
That's fair. Could have seen that coming earlier.
All right, now just to harp on that little comment for a second, I know 4 other mutants that live in this world, and they don't have that issue.
they had a good teacher though, so
Okay, so that's speaking to Calypso's teaching and leadership abilities. Yeah.
Correct. That's why she needs Scott, because she can't lead for crap.
Yeah.
Now it's coming together, folks.
Then we see Scott supposedly dead on the ground over there, and the women are starting to go, "Oh no, no, no!" Wolverine goes, "You know what? We'll just take him back to the mansion in pieces," and goes to stab him. Oh wait, nope, just a shapeshifter. Again, the nose knows.
Yep. See, he knows the smell of Scott, so
Yeah,
Telling ya,
he knows
Canon.
everybody's
Oh.
scent. He knows.
he
everybody's-
knows, but he mostly knows Scott's scent.
Sure, because he doesn't track everybody all the time. I mean, even in the episode when Morph came back and he hadn't seen Morph in years, he was like, "I know that smell. That's someone else."
It's because he likes Morph too.
it's that
97, it's the other way around,
Yeah.
but you know,
Yeah. Different.
Again.
different episode, different time.
Different show.
Shortly after this, though, the strongman does the same thing again to Rogue as the battle is fighting, and as she throws him again, all over again, is when all of a sudden everyone's making it a problem that Rogue then is like, "Oh, she's being too violent. We need to defend ourselves now."
I was just finally
Well,
glad
I mean-
to see a fight scene going on there.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
a lot of
that
walls
too.
and crawling and talking, and I'm like, these are
Power
excellent. Come on,
fight
let's-
scene.
Let's fight.
Let's do this. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, not only that, first of all, it's the fight scene, and then they find Jean finally, and it's another creepy grandma scene,
Yeah.
and making her act like a child all over again when she's that tall, which I thought was insane to watch.
I thought it was really funny when Wolverine finally starts chasing after Calypso, and he does a little comment about he likes it when they're rough, and I'm like, "Oh, dude, come on now, come on now."
Yet another reason why, while this episode is one that I did enjoy, it did not age well. I agreed on that. It did not age well.
Oy vey.
Then you see, Wolverine doing some awesome stuff, picking things up, and you're like, man, I was like, the dude is really strong for that short little Canadian midget dude. He's actually really strong. It was just you just forget those things about that because you're so focused on, oh, he can heal, he's got the claws, and he's got the extra senses stuff. And you're like, wow, damn, I forgot how strong he was.
Well,
that-
huge. He's jacked. He's Hugh Jackman.
Not yet, he wasn't.
No, not yet. But also, this whole episode, we haven't seen anyone fight until like right now, too. So, to be fair,
There
Well,
was
there's
that
a
fight
middle-
between the Morlocks and the humans. So there, but it was
that lasted like what, 15 seconds though.
Yeah, max 30 seconds.
And speaking of fights, so as the fights are like we fast forward a little bit to the next part where Storm calls for that one-on-one fight with Calypso, and they bust out the lightsabers.
Yeah.
Like
I had Chris Rock in my brain from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, just going, damn, George Lucas going to sue somebody.
But remember, it was Fox.
Yeah.
which
Still,
I don't know if they had the movie
his intellectual
rights.
property, not theirs.
Back then, they were all family.
This was Saban though, before it was Fox.
No, it was Saban and Fox. It was Fox Kids.
Oh, that's true.
But that is, I'm convinced, where the idea for Darth Maul's dual sabers came in. Originated.
Possibly. Except for the
Because-
fact that
Maybe.
they actually got to hold the part that was glowing.
They got
So,
Yeah, I
and
saw
it
that
would
too.
change colors occasionally too as they were going, because animation consistency with this episode for sure. But yeah, they actually got to hold the glowy part instead of it hurting when they're supposed to be holding the center like they started off.
I'm just saying they could just be rave sticks at this point. they
That's what I was
they
gonna say. Yeah.
they do change color. Storm could have accidentally just pressed the button of it just flashing at one point, but she just didn't know it had that feature.
There wasn't much raves at that time, but there definitely were a lot of punk rock shows, and they could have done something like that. I mean, all the Morlocks, most of their look is pretty punk when you go
That's
back to
true.
it and look at it. So
Yeah, Timu Cyclops had the big punk long hair.
Team Cyclops. I'm sorry. It's Biclops. We agreed on Biclops, I thought.
No, he's talking about
Scott- the
Timu version.
Oh, Scott is
Biclops.
Biclops.
yes.
Scott is Cyclops.
Got it.
Keep our
The
union
true
canon.
Cyclops.
Yeah, the true Cyclops. But yeah, he was very punk. I think he had a biker jacket too, if I remember
Yep.
correctly.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a denim jacket. Yeah,
Callisto also had the most punk looking outfit too,
yeah,
with
the
her
scar.
ripped jean jacket and the scar.
Nice scar.
But after that battle, Storm says obviously the most iconic line of "We'll come back for you once there is equality for all of us."
Yeah.
And Morlock kind.
Which we know doesn't ever really happen.
Nope.
So
No. Hence why they have to come up with a whole separate country for them. And eventually in the new comic, they have a whole separate planet from planet Earth
eventually,
for
An asteroid
mutants.
M?
It's yeah.
even different than that,
Basi-
Sean. Even different.
It's
than Asteroid M.
different. It's a whole planet on the new comics. If you haven't seen the new comics, fantastic.
Wolverine leaves without saying goodbye.
Yes, and we get the broken picture. You notice it's broken, it's ripped. He did not slice it with his claw, and it focuses there, and then we get roll credits.
Yep.
Which, to be fair, we go back to the most iconic song again, but a different rendition, and then we get the little character profiles on the computer, which iconic.
Yes, yeah, they did a great job. I was glad to see that get redone for '97. It was.
Yeah.
I was so happy. Yeah.
All right. So let's get our last sponsor out of the way. Mediocre Studios, you're up.
What's up, my nerds? Sean here from Retro Nerds Rewind podcast. As you know, we'll get back to the podcast in just a second, but I wanted to take a second to mention our sponsor, Mediocre Studios. Now, don't let the name fool you. These guys are amazing. They are a veteran-founded small business specializing in 3D printing miniatures and tabletop terrain pieces. Yes, that's right. If you want your miniatures, tabletop terrain, or even that stuff painted, they can do all that stuff for you. If you want to print it out yourself, they've got the hookup for you there too. They are the official US distributor for the Uniformation 3D resin printers and are offering $80 off of the GK2 if you use our code RETRO. Those painting services, miniatures, and terrain pieces I mentioned, they'll hook you up there as well with 5% off if you use our code word REWIND. They are adding new products all the time from top modelers including Immaterium God Miniatures, Den of Imagination, DMG Minis, not to mention several other local talented artists. That's mediocre-studios.com. Go check them out. See what I'm talking about. These guys are incredible, and there's a reason that we love them so much, and you will too. All right, enough of me ranting. Let's get back to the podcast. I love to know what the hell is happening in this episode.
And we are back. So let's get some final thoughts from everybody here. Why don't we start with Jamal? Jamal, why don't you give us your rating and what you thought of this episode?
What would my rating be? I gave it a 7 claws out of 10 claws. You get to know Wolverine being the jealous type and his affection for Jean and his shadiness towards Scott. Cyclops. Morlocks, not my thing. I mean, I'm glad. I don't know if they come back. I can't remember, but
They do.
okay, yeah. But they're an odd bunch, and it was entertaining. Like I said, the creepy grandma. I'm glad we don't see her that much. And,
Imagine putting the kids to bed. I mean, that would be just awesome. Just have her come in. Okay, get them to sleep, and then you can go downstairs and have dinner. Go on, go. Do your job.
Potty train.
Oh, yeah.
She tells them how to do everything.
yeah.
Just saying.
Mama, make it better. Go away.
She has a great job in store for her in the Morlock country side.
Yeah, that's what I give it.
All right. And what about you, Cody? What's your rating, and what did you think of this episode?
I'm gonna give it a solid 8 Biclopses out of 10 Cyclopses. I agree with what Jamal said though too. I'll also add that just like what Sean said, is seeing the characters, or not the character, but the team interacting with each other, and you can slowly see how the actual X-Men, yeah, and then with Storm, obviously Storm being my all-time favorite X-Men character, actually all-time favorite Marvel character as well. Seeing her overcome the claustrophobia in this episode and giving her a little spiel that she normally does, because Storm never is short with words, and the words that she does say is the most dramatic and amazing things that you'll ever hear too.
True.
By the way, really quick, since we're on Storm, because Ryan Coogler is writing Black Panther 3. That's all I'm going to say.
Hey.
I don't know how Storm will work with Black Panther 3 and there not being
no T'Challa.
No T'Challa for it. I mean,
unless she gets married to this other Black Panther.
She was his queen, and
they have to.
Any other way would just. I mean, I would.
We just barely got them, so they got to figure out how to write it in. That's all I'm saying.
So unless we get T'Challa's son growing up fast, and all of a sudden Storm is going for T'Challa's son for the T'Challa Jr.
Was an iteration of that.
Creepy.
Just saying.
In the multiverse, remember? So there's different Storms.
She'd be old.
I mean, isn't she already?
Halle Berry still look good, but she ain't. She can't pull that off. Sorry.
Are we bringing Halle Berry back as Storm?
Who knows?
Oh, we've got the new one from X-Men Apocalypse. Anyway,
Sean, what's your rating and what do you think of the show?
Yeah, I'm going to give it only actually a 5 out of 10. All the creepy factor with Wolverine and Jean did not land well with me. There's a lot of good things about the episode, but that was one that definitely tanked my rating. Was that all that stuff? It was cool to see the meme in action. It's always nice to see origination of those. But again, I'm going to stick with a 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10 what?
That.
5 out of 10 shivers.
Shivers?
There you go. Shivers. Cold chill.
Cold chills.
Well, I am going to give this episode, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 Timu Cyclopses.
Yes.
Which is really like a 3.5 on any other scale.
I enjoyed the episode. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it had some creepy factor to it. For our standards as adults now, going back then, it didn't seem that way then, because we were kids. We didn't read into those things like we do as adults on those. I couldn't tell you what my parents would have thought about it because they didn't watch that stuff with me. They were doing other things on Saturday mornings, yard work, chores, whatever, while I was sitting there watching TV. So at that age, because I would have been 8 years old when this episode aired. So yeah. All right. So next week we are going to be doing another show off of one of our lists. And this one is actually off of Cody's. Cody, why don't you tell us real quick what our next episode is going to be?
So we will be going back to the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s to Powerpuff Girls.
There we go. Get this one. We'll knock this one off of Cody's list and have a good time doing it. I personally didn't watch that show growing up. I was a bit older when it came out and wasn't interested in that. So this was an interesting watch for me. But we'll get into that next week. As always, please like and subscribe to us here. If you have any recommendations, please put them in the comments. We'd love to see what you would enjoy watching us, listening to us dissect, talk about, trash, blow up, just have fun. So,
Not
Sean,
trash, roast, slightly roast.
Slightly
back-
roasted.
Go back and watch He-Man. No, that's definitely. So,
By saying go back and watch He-Man, I think you just triggered Jamal.
Took 5 more years off his life stream.
No comment.
All right, Sean, why don't you send us out, sir?
Thank you, everybody, and join us next time as we hit rewind.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.